Hello, this is Mr. Finley. These are notes on voice and articulation, which is what we're going to be studying this week. And as a reminder, there's going to be a quiz on these terms as well as the basic theater terms on Friday. So, basic terms when it comes to the voice. To be audible is able to be heard. It's going to be something you're going to hear me say a lot. Are you being audible or not? Can we hear you? It doesn't matter how funny you are, how brilliant your character is. If you're not audible, if you're not loud enough to be heard, that doesn't matter. To articulate is to shape the sound in the mouth for clarity. We'll be spending a lot of time on this. Again, volume, how loud you are, is only one part of being understood. The other part is how clear your sound is. And articulating is what makes sound clear or not. This is why we do that ridiculous pa-pa-pa-ba-ba-ba-ta-ta-ta-da-da-da thing. And we're going to be adding on to that as well. These are all things that train our articulators, that is, the parts of the mouth that shape sound, in order to be trained so that they can shape the sound and make it really clear. Inflection has to do with how high or low the sound is. A lot of us get trapped into speaking at more or less the same pitch, and it sounds really monotonous. And we might not even be aware that we're doing that. One of the things that great actors can do with their voice is to use a wide range of different pitches, which we call inflection. Some people can go up really high, some people might go really low. And the ability to go between these is part of what makes for a strong sound. And pitch, this goes along with inflection, is the relative highness or lowness of the voice. To project is to send the voice out to the audience. This has to do with volume, but it doesn't just mean being loud. You can be loud, you can scream, without actually projecting. When I say that you need to project on stage, it means to support the sound from the lungs, and we'll talk about that on the next slide, in such a way that you are loud and clear without screaming, without making it an unpleasant sound, without adding tension to the voice. Rate is the speed at which one speaks. If one is speaking too quickly, or one is speaking too slowly, it makes it hard to understand. You want to make sure that your rate, the speed at which you're speaking, makes it clear for the audience. Usually, the problem is people speaking too quickly. If you're speaking too quickly, then we lose what you're saying, especially if you do not have great articulation. Resonance means literally the vibrations that are made within the body when you speak. And when you have good resonance, there are a lot of vibrations that happen throughout the body, and it gives a rich, warm quality to your speaking voice. And volume, this is one that you probably already know. Volume is the relative loudness of your voice, being either loud or soft. When you're on stage, you need to be, as it says in the first word, audible, able to be heard. Having sufficient volume is part of this, but so too are these other elements. Being able to articulate, that is to be clear in your sound, to use inflection and pitch, to project your sound so that it gets over to the audience, and to speak at a rate which we understand. All of those things go into audibility, the ability to be heard. So it's not just a matter of volume. Now this slide indicates the parts of the instrument. We refer to our body as actors as the instrument, just like a violinist might refer to their violin as their instrument. It's the thing we use on stage to create the art that we're trying to create. This part of the apparatus, this part of the instrument, we call the articulators. They're the parts of the mouth which shape and define sound. The obvious one is the tongue. This is sort of a side view of the tongue. You can see it's a big old muscle, the big root down here. Your tongue is a much larger muscle than you think. And when we think of articulators, that's what we think of. The tongue shapes sound, and that's true, but it's not the only thing that shapes sound. Your other articulators include your lips. This is that whole pa-pa-pa, ba-ba-ba thing we do. There are some sounds that are made on the lips. Also included are your teeth. The way that your tongue interacts with your teeth also helps create sound, like ta-ta-ta, da-da-da. And then the hard palate, which is the roof of your mouth, the hard part, and then the soft palate at the back. This is actually one of the vocabulary words also, palate, the hard and soft area that forms the roof of your mouth. Your tongue interacts with those as well to articulate sound, like the ka-ka-ka, ga-ga-ga right here at the back. Also, you can't really see it here, is the jaw muscle itself. The way the jaw moves helps shape and define sound. So all of these things working together are articulators. They shape sound. They make it clear. But besides being clear, you also have to be loud, and that what brings us down here to the lungs. All sound is breath leaving the lungs, passing the vocal cords, being shaped by the sound, and coming out. So everything starts in the lungs. We all know the lungs are there in the rib cage, and they hold air. But the lungs are organs, they're not muscles. So when you breathe in, the lungs don't do anything. Your breath is controlled by a muscle down here called the diaphragm. It's the muscle below the rib cage that controls breath. It's right here, it's like a trampoline at the bottom of your rib cage, and it goes down, which causes the lungs to stretch and air to flow into them, and then it pushes up and air comes out. So when you breathe deeply, that you really are breathing deep. It's your diaphragm here all the way at the bottom of your lungs that you'll feel engaged. We'll do a lot of that in class. There are also muscles between the ribs on the outside, and we call those the intercostals. The intercostal muscles are the muscles between the ribs that assist with breath. When we do that stretch to the side in the morning, that's to stretch these side muscles, the intercostals. But those don't do nearly as much work as the diaphragm down here. All of those systems, the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm, all move to fill up the lungs with breath, but it's really the diaphragm that does most of the work. So those muscles move away, air rushes in here, and then air rushes back out through the larynx. The larynx is also known as your voice box, and it's right here in your throat, and that's where your vocal cords or vocal folds are. As air rushes past them, they vibrate, and that creates tone, pitch. And then it is shaped, that pitch is shaped here. So when we talk about sound, there's really three parts of it. The air coming from your lungs, and that controls the resonance and the volume, the way that it shakes the vocal cords, which when they vibrate makes pitch, and then the way that it is shaped by the tongue and the teeth and the roof of the mouth and the jaw to be articulated. So we're going to be working with all of those systems, the articulators, the vocal folds and larynx, and the diaphragm and lungs. Also, just as a reminder, you will have a quiz on these terms this coming Friday, so make sure that you are paying attention to them. Thanks so much.